Hey, what's up, everybody? Ron Harris here on Ron Harris Muscle. Thanks for joining me. Want to go over a contest that's very, very important, near and dear to me. A lot of great memories. This was my first Olympia, the 1991 Mr. Olympia contest in Orlando, Florida. Took place at the Walt Disney World Dolphin Hotel. I was working for American Sports Network. We were the company responsible for producing the 1 hour event special on ESPN. That's where this footage comes from. The gentleman with the upload, I'm sure he has no rights from ESPN for it, so I'm not going to worry about it either. But I want to get right to it, guys. I'm going to show you the entire top 15. There were actually 27 men in the show that year. Top 15 is what we showed on the 1 hour special. And let's get into it, shall we? So let's go full screen. So that was Joe Fowler and Penny Price. They were the hosts. And it goes right into, I skipped the beginning part. It goes right into little footage from the pre-judging. These were all one-day shows back then. They all took place Saturday morning and then Saturday evening. And it was just the Mr. Olympia. There was nothing else. No Ms. Olympia. No other divisions existed yet. All we had back in these days were the Mr. and Ms. Olympia. Hard to believe, I know. But that's the way it was back then. There was just men's bodybuilding, women's bodybuilding. Lee Haney was already a 7-time champion going into this show. He was going for his 8th title, which would break the record set by Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold didn't win 7 in a row. He won 6, took 5 years off, came back and won another one. Lee did win 8 in a row. He won 7 in a row before, but this was his final Olympia. Probably the best he ever looked. We're going to go into Lee Labrada's routine in a second. You'll see a wide range of physiques here, guys. Different heights, different weights, guys as low as 180 pounds, as heavy as 255 pounds, 265 pounds. Lee Labrada was up first. He was 5'6", 185. Lee was only 30 years old. So Hunter is actually older now by a couple of years than Lee was here. Lee had already been second at the Olympia a couple times. He had been second the year before this in Chicago, the first and only year the Olympia was steroid tested. He looked phenomenal, and he was actually ahead of Lee Haney in the judging. Somehow in the night show, even though Labrada was always known as being the greatest poser, somehow he fell behind Lee Haney in the posing round and managed to get second place. But this is just a lesson in posing mastery, watching Lee Labrada. You see, he was not a massive guy, but everything was perfectly proportionate, perfectly developed. No one body part stands out. You can't say he had weak this or strong that. Everything blended together, perfect harmony. Lee Labrada was just amazing. For a guy that was, 180 to 190 pounds, he pushed Lee Haney very, very hard a few times. Lee being, anywhere from 240 to 255 in his Olympia reign. Show you back then, we didn't need a 202 or 212 class back then. We didn't need classic. Next up, Ron Love. Ron Love from the United States. A lot of you guys probably forgot all about Ron. Ron was from Detroit. He was 40 years old here. And the commentators, I turned the volume off, they were making note of his age, because that was a pretty amazing for a guy 40 years old to still be in any pro bodybuilding stage, much less the Olympia. Ron came out of Detroit. Massive guy, as you can see. Tremendous upper body. Legs were good. They were never quite as good as the upper body. That sort of held him back. But it was a very tough era he competed in as well. But you can see the density, the muscle quality. There were no shot up body parts back then, no weird lumps, no real shiny, smooth areas on anybody's physique. It was all real muscle, no SEO, nothing crazy like that. Ron, one of the great people come out of Detroit, Linda Murray, who was trained with him at one point early in her career, was also out of Detroit. Linda, the 8-time Ms. Olympia champion. Iris Kyle, also out of Michigan. 10-time Ms. Olympia champion. And if you didn't know, Andrea Shaw, current Olympia champion also. Okay, we got Rich Gpar. Rich was 5'8" here, 216, 28 years old. They called him the Dragon Slayer. He's the other guy who pushed Lee Haney very, very hard during his Olympia reign. Rich was known for his condition. They called him Ripped Richie. Lee Haney called him Rich the Itch because, I'm not muted, Mike. Good. Because Rich was known for he was relentless. He was he was a thorn in Lee's side. He would not give up. Took second place a few years, I think 4 times. He didn't really compete that long as a pro. I believe his first pro, let's see, Haney turned pro in 83. I think Lee turned pro in 84. Lee was on top of the sport for just a few years and then sort of burnt out. He hurt his neck. He was someone who was very good, very young. And a lot of times in cases like that, they don't have the lasting power, the endurance, because they did start everything, the heavy training, the gear, all that stuff very young. We got Bob Paris at 10:04. Yeah, we're going to go right into Bob Paris next. So Bob Paris was known as one of the greatest posers. Let's get a height and weight on him, shall we? Sorry. Let me get a height and weight on Bob because he was not massive. You'll notice none of these guys were as heavy as what we see now. Just to give you an idea, let's look at his height and weight to see if he would have qualified for classic under the current parameters, because he's what they speak about a lot when they refer to a classic look and classic bodybuilding. It's one of the physiques that inspired the classic division. So, okay, 6 foot 230. Okay, Bumstead is 6'1" and some change, roughly. And Chris has been anywhere from 230 to 240 for the last few classic physique Olympia wins. So, by classic physique standards, Bob Paris could have made classic. His condition was never quite as sharp as I felt it could have been, but what a creative poser. A lot of people felt his career, he was sort of blacklisted after he came out as openly gay. He was, as far as I know, the first pro bodybuilder to ever come out as being openly gay. Had a husband. He married a guy named Rod. Lived in Olympia, Washington, of all places. But you can see a lot like Labrada. Physiques are very similar. He's a taller version of Lee Labrada, basically, where nothing is overdeveloped or underdeveloped. Everything's just in perfect harmony and proportion. You don't have overpowering shoulders, quads, arms, chest, back. Nothing really stands out because it was all perfectly in proportion. Terry Pastel, 5'4", 180 pounds from France. I bet a lot of you guys have never even heard of Terry Pastel, and that is a shame. Terry was a top guy on the pro scene for a few years, then he sort of faded away. He was known for having not 6 but 8 abs, as you can see there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Very, very round, full muscle bellies. Look at those triceps, tiny joints. Something we would see years later on a guy like Phil Heath. Just that crazy swell. Look at the way those triceps just swell away from the joints. So full and round. Quads. He wasn't missing anything. A little narrow structurally. He was a shorter guy. It wasn't easy for shorter guys. We had, like I said, there was no lightweight division back then. Everyone was just in one pro category. So whether you were 5'4", 180 pounds or 6'2", and 280 pounds, you were all on the same stage at the same time together. But it's testimony to how good these guys were. Guys like him, Benfado you'll see soon, Labrada, Danny Padilla before that, Muhammad Makaway before that, Lee Priest later on, a few years after this. Lee just a couple of years later would come on the scene, 2 or 3 years after this. Next up, Sonny Schmidt, the late Sonny Schmidt from Australia. Oh, wow, he's only 34. Rest in peace, Sonny. Milos Sarshev, if you follow Milos posts about Sonny on a fairly regular basis. They were best friends. They were on the road together on many, many tours. Good friends. And Sonny, very, very soft-spoken, quiet guy. Didn't talk much. I interviewed him a couple times for the TV show. I was an associate producer on this show. My role at this Olympia, I was just a production assistant. I still wasn't doing the interviews and so on at this Olympia. That would follow in the years after, 93, 94, 95. But at this point, we still had a couple older guys working as associate producers who were fulfilling that role. I was just doing whatever they needed me to do at this show, running around backstage, pulling cables, bringing people extra batteries, cameramen, just random crap like that. But Sonny, man, what a thick, dense, powerful physique he had. Just look at the pecs, the arms, the shoulders. Guy was a very, very, very rugged, impressive physique that it's a shame that I'm sure a lot of younger guys now never even heard of Sonny. And he was a top five guy on the pro scene for many, many years, did a lot of shows. Just like Milos, back then, some of these guys would hit as many as 10 contests a year. Of course, some of them would be, bam, bam, bam in a row. They'd be off in Europe and there'd be a contest on Saturday, a contest on Sunday. in a different country. Ryell Janvier, I guarantee a lot of you guys haven't heard him. 5'7", 210, only 27. Originally from Haiti, he lived in Connecticut in the years that he was best known as a pro. Turned pro at the 88 USA as a light heavy, along with heavyweight winner John Defendis and overall. There was no super heavyweight division back then. Ryell was known for conditioning, strided glutes. Don't think he was in his best condition at this particular show. It doesn't look like. But he was damn good. I mean, just that year, he had taken second place at the Arnold Classic and second place at the Ironman Pro Invitational. So Ryell was no slouch. He had a very, very proportionate, evenly balanced physique, symmetrical, wasn't missing anything. You know, obviously he wasn't a massive, massive guy, but everything flowed. You know, back then we didn't have a lot of mass monsters. At this show, you're only going to see a couple guys who were really over like 230, 240 pounds. It was very rare. Out of 27 men in the Olympia, I would say maybe 5 of them were over 240 pounds. It was a very rare thing for anyone to carry that much size back then. So who came after him? Ben Fado, I believe. Do we roll right into it or go into a commercial? Well, this is the first time I've seen this in years. Yep, I got to get rid of your TurboTax commercial. Yeah, we got to pay our taxes here in America. Okay, so this is Francis Benfado. We actually did a little story on him, a little profile, and then we go into the posing. Here we go. 5'7", 185. That would be classic physique now. He would qualify for classic physique, and he is one of the guys who inspired the classic physique division, and I think you can see why. What a beautiful physique this guy had. Still has. He competed a few years ago I think he was close to 60. Still looked phenomenal. Everything in proportion. You know, you can't say he had a weak back or a weak arm, weak legs. Everything beautiful and flowing. Look at that. Graceful poser, transitions. He took his time, gave you a chance to appreciate every pose, hit a lot of unique, what we would now call classic poses. Look at that waistline. Tiny. That was a great shot for him. They call that the crucifix pose. Always love that shot on Benfado. Condition, it's hard to tell. This is a transfer from VHS, so this isn't very clear, but you can still tell he was rarely in the kind of condition that they were looking for the top guys. What do we have after that? We had a commercial break, a commercial, and then we're going to go into Shawn Ray. Back it up just a second. Okay, here we go. So Shawn, this was his, let's see, this was the 91 Olympia. He turned pro in 87. He did the 88, 89. This was his 4th Olympia. He was finding his way, but Shawn was never out of the top 5. He did the Olympia, I think, 13 times and was never out of the top 5. 5'7", 200 pounds. That's still too heavy for classic these days, guys. But, when we say he wasn't a mass monster, I was so impressed with him back in the day. Again, look at the fullness and the roundness of the muscles, just God-given beautiful shape. He had started competing and winning as a teenager, and you could see all of this. It was just a smaller version of what we're looking at right here. But, man, it was an amazing physique. Shawn took second place at the Olympia a couple times. And, arguably, I think it was in 96. There was a couple Olympias where strong arguments could be made that he probably should have won. He was that good. He wasn't missing a thing. They would say, well, he was short. Well, I mean, he's 5'7". We had guys like Franco Colombo won the Olympia twice. He was 5'4". Frank, we had some guys who were shorter. 5'8", 206, Vince Taylor. So Vince had only been on the scene a couple of years. Vince turned pro, same show as Shawn. Shawn was a light heavyweight winner in 87 NPC Nationals. Vince was the heavyweight winner. Shawn won the overall. But yeah, Vince was not a massive guy. But again, it's all illusion. You would never guess his height and weight looking at him because look at the fullness of the muscles, the muscle bellies. His biceps go all the way into the elbow crook, triceps, everything. He had incredibly full muscles, beautiful shape, very, very gifted poser. I shouldn't say gifted because he worked hard at it. This was actually, let's see, how did he place that year? He had won his pro debut, the 1989 Night of Champions, and the 89 Olympia, which was in Rimini, Italy. He took 3rd place. That was his Olympia debut, 3rd place. So this was the very start of, I can't play the music. You know that Terminator routine that we've seen a billion times after this? Guys like King Kamali did it very well. They all got it from this guy, Vince Taylor. This was the very first time we ever saw the Terminator routine where he was doing I wish I could play the sound. Maybe I can. Do I dare? I think I'll play it.
Confident Vince Taylor. Yeah, he's going to finish high. He is going to finish high.
Oh, no, I can't play it. Anyway, okay, so now we have Robbie Robinson. So Robbie was 45 here. Robbie was 45. That was considered incredibly old. By bodybuilding standards, that was like a senior citizen at this point. Robbie Robinson, the Black Prince, had been competing, I think, since the late 60s. He's in the movie Pumping Iron briefly. You see him. He was not at the Olympia level yet. I believe he was still like in the world Mr. Universe level at that time in 75 when they filmed that. But Robbie was stalwart on the pro scene. He won for a few years. I don't know if you guys realize this. They had weight classes at the Olympia. It would be heavyweight and lightweight. It would be under and over 200 pounds. I believe he won at least once when Frank Zane was the champ, the overall champ. Yeah, we cut the music short on him. Akim Alre. Okay, interesting fact here from Germany. 29 years old, 246, 5'11". This was his pro debut. Pro debut meaning he did not qualify in any way, shape, or form. He was invited to the show by Joe Weider. It was Joe Weider's Mr. Olympia, and they always had a policy of having a special invitation to the Mr. Olympia. Later it would go to guys like Gunter Schlierkamp. In more recent times, we've seen it go to guys like Derek Lunsford. Big Ramy got a special invite one time. The late Cedric McMillan got a special invite one time. But back in the day, it was really just about marketability, guys. It wasn't because, oh, this guy like barely missed winning a show. He barely missed qualifying for the Olympia. They should give him a chance. It was just about who they thought would be best for the show. Marketability, sell tickets. He needed more arms, Akim. Massive guy. Arms did not match those legs. He had crazy legs, crazy freaky legs. He became a pro wrestler for a while after this, I remember. After he wasn't in bodybuilding very long. Wasn't in pro bodybuilding very long. He didn't do that well. Didn't have the prettiest physique. Who comes after him? So we got a Cybergenics. So now they had a little retrospective. I want to show you guys a Cybergenics commercial because Cybergenics was something. I'm going to turn the volume up too. This was a product that they sold in kits. I'm going to turn the volume up so you can hear it.
Was founded by Ben Weider.
Okay.
Want to look like this?
Get in on the secret. Cybergenics builds muscle fast.
Look, this is me before Cybergenics. This is me after.
Experts like the International Sports Symposium and Muscle Training Illustrated agree that Cybergenics is the first true and potent alternative to steroids.
In 60 days, you can put on 20 pounds of muscle. I know, because I did it.
This dual-phase 60-day program combines revolutionary potent anabolic formulas with a 72-page advanced systems training manual. This powerful innovation promotes maximum muscular size and strength while significantly reducing unwanted body fat. Act now and you'll receive Cybergenics the video, a must for amateurs and professionals alike. Don't miss out. This $39 value is yours absolutely free through this special TV offer. Call now to order Cybergenics for...
Yeah, so I actually got that. My wife, who was my girlfriend, we started dating in late 89. And in 1990, she bought me that kit, the Cybergenics kit. And I was so excited. I was still natural, still would be for many more years after that. But I thought, oh boy, this stuff's just as good as steroids. I interviewed Franco Santoriello later, the guy in the ad. He admitted the before pictures where he had stopped training and stopped gear for months and months. The after picture, obviously, it was a big scam. They made millions and millions of dollars. A couple of brothers out of New Jersey had the company. Scott Chinery was his name. Anyway, he made so much money. He was buying guitars from, I don't know, like Led Zeppelin. He was buying like famous rock star guitars. He bought the original Batmobile. That's how much money this guy made off this scam. It was crap. The products were not steroid-like. They were. The only good thing about Cybergenics that I can say, having used it myself, was it came with the workout program, the video, and a little booklet to give you the workouts and record your workouts. That was the best part of it. The workouts were great. They had some cool intensity techniques. Only thing I didn't like about it was they wanted you to train in a fasted state for weight training. I tried it a couple times. I was miserable. My workout sucked. Then I said, well, let me just train when I normally train, which at that time I was in college. I would train like in the afternoons after classes. So then I got great workouts. I was like, wow, this stuff's awesome. Anyway, all right. Let's go back to the 1991 Mr. Olympia, shall we? All right, Cybergenics. What a bunch of crap that was. So the next guy up is Nimrod King. The reason I'm doing it partly is because I want you guys to see some of the pros from back then, because I guarantee a lot of you have never heard of these guys. So Nimrod, 5'6", 206. 206, that's all he was, 5'7", 206. You'll see how much bigger he appears. Only 25 years old here. Does this look like a guy who's 5'7", 206 pounds? That's how small his joints were. Bird bones. They must have weighed nothing, his bones, because he had a lot of dense, thick muscle. See, there's a sports update. This was ESPN, brought to you by Kit Kat. Give me a break, Kit Kat bar. And they're going to give you some NBA scores. Chicago Bulls, New Jersey Nets. That was just an update. It was still in the fourth quarter. New York, Orlando. Yeah. The Magic and what's New York? Clippers, Houston. Yeah. So yeah, this proves to you this was on ESPN. Boston Celtics. Who's the Milwaukee team? I have no idea. So Nimrod, man, he was a very thick guy, crazy big arms and legs. The funniest thing I remember about Nimrod, I saw him the night before the judging, just chilling out watching TV in the hotel lobby. And it was like Friday the 13th was on. Why do I remember that? And he said, okay, I'm going to pause it before Dorian. He said, I could tell I'm in shape because my wrists are smaller. To that I said, your joints, your bones don't get smaller when you diet, but that's what Nimrod believes. Okay, this was Dorian Yates' first Mr. Olympia. And man, he made quite an impression, 5'10", 239. He would later compete in the high 260s. He's only 29 years old here. He had only done 2 pro shows up to this point. In 1990, he came out from UK to New York City for what's called the Night of Champions now. It sort of has become what we now know as the New York Pro. But back then it was New York. New York had the Night of Champions every May. He took second place in his pro debut to the late Mohammed Benaziza, who was all of 5'2" or 5'3", 180 pounds, 190 pounds. And Dorian was just pissed. He saw one thing that Mohammed beat him on, Momo, was the back development. That's what really inspired Dorian to go back home to Temple Gym and beat the shit out of his back. Comes back in 91, May of 91, blows the Night of Champions away. And this is a show that used to have anywhere from 30 to 40 guys. I think one year they had 45 guys in the show. This is all one division, guys, one division. And Dorian won, just blew the show away. So this was his debut. He was the first guy in all. This was the 8th year that Haney won the Olympia, but it was the first guy who ever really pushed Haney in terms of being similar, maybe even equal, in terms of the upper body mass, the structure, the height, the stature, everything. He was very, very comparable to Lee, whereas you didn't see the other guys. Gpar was significantly shorter and lighter, Labrada even more so, and those were his biggest threats. But along comes this guy who's almost as tall as him, almost as heavy as him, and he would get much bigger. He would get much bigger over the years, but debut was a smash for Dorian. He was described by the commentators, who I turned off, as Haney with better legs. I mean, that says a lot. It was one of the best pro debuts of all time. I'm sorry, Olympia debuts of all time. He's going to end up in second place, as you know. And Lee Haney retired after this, but a lot of people speculate that even if Lee had continued on and tried to go for 9 titles in 1992, that Dorian probably would have won. Dorian probably would have had him, because Dorian was just getting started here. This was not his full potential. We were just seeing what he was a little bit of what he was capable of. Got another commercial for, what's this, like some Sims game or something? All right, so Dorian's done. What do we get after Dorian? Lee Haney. So now we're going to do Lee Haney. Okay. Lee, we had a little commercial, what we call a package, just like a pre-produced profile where he's talking about all kinds of crap. But let's go to the posing. Okay, so here he was. It was actually his 9th Olympia show. His first Olympia, he took like 4th place in 1983 when Samir won. 5'11", 248, 34 years old. He would retire with 8 Olympia titles at the age of 34. Pretty amazing. I think he wasn't that old. I think that was incorrect on what we call the chyrons, the CGs there, the caption. I think he was actually 32. Now that I look at this. Yeah, I think we screwed that up. I'm pretty sure he wasn't 34. So Lee, this was his best. We also screwed up the weight. He was over 250 here. many, many times since I've interviewed him, he said he was, I want to say 254 and the best condition he'd ever been in. So you can see legs were not enormous. He had a crazy back, crazy chest. Shoulders were very good. Arms were not ever great. Arms and legs on him were never like spectacular. They weren't bad. It's just he had such a dominant torso. Typically, you see the opposite far more often. You see guys with tremendous arms and legs, and they're lacking in the chest and or back. Now, Lee obviously didn't win 8 Olympia titles with bad arms and legs. They weren't bad, guys. I'm not insinuating that. They just weren't as good. It's going to go right into his commercial for Twin Lab product, which my former boss, Steve Bleckman, and his brothers owned at the time. But I want to show you the commercial just to give you an idea of what we had back then as far as products to choose from and the way they were marketed toward us. You know, you guys think supplement industries trying to scam you. You should have been around when we were around back in the old days. So Penny and Joe, how long are they going to talk for? That's Joe Fowler and Penny Price. I think I had a crush on Penny. I had a crush on like every hot female bodybuilder back in the day. Yeah.
Guests, just spend the next moment or so writing them down. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll have the 6 finalists, the pose down, and the award ceremony right after this.
Let's go into the commercial.
Math. No. Math. No. Math. Yeah, that's it.
Introducing the Lee Haney Mass Fuel Kit from Twin Lab, a complete nutrition and training program to help build muscle mass.
Math. Now you got it.
So just real quick, that video that came with the mass kit, that was filmed. Again, we produced that. The company I worked for, American Sports Network, we had produced that a few months before. And that was the first time I met Lee Haney. It was, I think, in April. A place called Sequoia Athletic Club in Orange County, California. Took two full shooting days. It was instructional. It was Lee taking me through every single body part, how to do it with voiceovers and everything. And I was just a production assistant and everything. But I was in awe. I mean, this guy, he was in great shape. Lee didn't get fat in the offseason at all. He always stayed in pretty lean, hard condition. And, I had been seeing him in the magazines for years and years at that point. So for me to actually be around him, I think I tried to talk to him a couple of times. I was a scared look. I was 21 years old. I was like afraid of my own shadow still. But it was such a cool experience to be able to be part of. All right, so we're going to go into this is going to be the top 6 comparisons, guys. So here we have the top 6 finalists. Left to right, we're looking at Doran Yates, Lee Haney, Vince Taylor, Sonny Schmidt, Shawn Ray, and Lee Labrada. So this was, I don't think it was scored. The pose down was scored. But they would score, they had individual rounds for the judging. Like there was a symmetry round, muscularity round. I think, it was just 2 rounds. And then the posing round was judged. And then the pose down was a round that was judged. So this is kind of similar what you're looking at to what we now call the confirmation round, where the judges get one last chance to compare the guys before they make their final decisions. So, they're putting them all through all the mandatories. Look at that. Lee had a legitimate 31-inch waist at over 250 pounds, which I don't think you're going to see. Well, actually, we got guys like Andrew Jack has a pretty damn small waist, doesn't he? Samson's got a pretty small waist, but Andrews is really small for a guy as heavy as he is. Front lat spread was always a great shot for Lee, but Dorian was matching him. Dorian was matching him shot for shot, and it's hard for me to say which poses Lee really beat him on at this show. I'd say maybe the front double. Lee had an amazing front double because he did have a little more narrow waist. And Lee did have a great back. Yeah, Lee had a great side chest. Lee was known for those thick slab pecs. And I don't think he ever benched in his training more than 315. He was a very, very smart trainer. Never did anything to risk injury. Went as heavy as he could with good form and engaging the muscle. Didn't do any ego lifting. Dorian was already using his own style of training at this point. which he had adapted from heavy duty, the Mike Mentzer system, and his own style of it that he was dubbed Blood and Guts Training. Wrote a great best-selling book with Peter McGuff called Blood and Guts that details the whole system, body part by body part, gives you all the workouts and everything. So yeah, man, this was ESPN. This was on ESPN, the major sports network of the world. It's hard to believe now that we're looking at pro bodybuilding. Mr. Olympia wasn't on a stream or a webcast. There was no internet yet, guys. The internet was still a good 6-8 years away at this point. We're looking here, 1991. This was 33 years ago. So it's just like free posing. Looks like they're just, that was a side tricep. Yeah, they're taking their time getting to the side tri. Yeah, I wish the clarity was a little better on the video, guys, so you could really get a better appreciation. But I think you can still get a good idea of how these guys compared. Yeah, different weights. I mean, Labrada over on the right, he's about 185 pounds. You got the two guys on the left. Dorian was in the high 230s. Sonny Schmidt in the 230s. Lee Haney over 250. Vince Taylor only 206. Such a wide range. We don't see that wide a range of size and weight in the top 60 Olympia anymore. Rarely, Hadi and Derek are on the lighter side in the top 6, and they're both about 230 pounds on stage. Okay, so that was it. And then promoter of the show in these days was a guy named Wayne D'Amelia from New York, and we all knew every pro show he would basically MC a lot of these shows. He would always say, "Oh, was he at the judges table?" I think he was at the judges table. He would say, "If the music man's ready, pose down," and these guys would go for it. Stage designs back then were all done by a guy named Charlie Blake out of New York. Also, was a good friend of Wayne's. Wayne put on some great shows. It's too bad he sort of tried to start his own federation later on called the PDI that didn't work out, and that was the end of his association with the IFBB forever. These were the good old days, man. Look at that. Dorian wasn't afraid of anybody. First Olympia, a lot of people would be very intimidated, just overwhelmed by the experience and the depth of competition they were up against. I mean, these were guys. He was up against a 7-time Olympia champion. He was up against a couple guys up there who had already been second place at the Olympia, third place, top bodybuilders in the world. Dorian was chasing him down. He was not afraid, fearless. Yeah. I'm glad he got rid of that crazy hairdo, man. It was too much hair. Took away from his physique, I feel. But he did have a beautiful head of hair, didn't he? Look at all that hair Dorian had. He shaves it nice and clean now. Very, very close. And Dorian still can grow plenty of hair if he wants to. He's not one of the many of us who lost hair. See, we had multiple cameras going. I wish we could see this in like the Gilco quality. Gilco Productions, who does all the video productions for the pro shows these days, they do a fantastic job. I mean, the cameras have come a long way in over 30 years. The resolution and but still, you're still getting a good appreciation for the Zeeks here. I don't even remember beyond. I seem to remember obviously Lee winning. I remember Dorian gets second. I think Vince got third here. We're going to find out in a minute. Yeah. So we filmed this for a 1-hour special, and then I think this was September. That was our company's 900 number. You had to pay 99 cents a minute, and you could select from all different categories, contest schedules, gossip, because there was no internet. You would have to call this number, pay 99 cents a minute, and hit the right buttons to hear whatever you wanted to hear. And this time they were just I don't know if we were just advertising in general or telling people they could vote for the winner, even though their vote had no meaning, because the winner, this aired, I want to say like 4 weeks after the show had already happened. So I don't know what the point was of it wasn't live. I know it wasn't live because we took time to edit it. I remember being like a production assistant in the edit bay, watching. It was either Tim or Phil that I worked with. They were cutting this all together, the 1-hour show. Okay, and we're back. Well, I'm glad this whoever uploaded this, he cut out the commercials. So now we're gonna go to the awards and we'll be all done. Can't remember who placed fifth. Was it Shawn? Sonny. I think Sonny was sixth. I want to say. I don't know if I don't think he ever made top 5. Yeah, they're all shaking his hand. 6th place, yeah. But still, 6th place in the Olympia, man. Come on. And there's one of the Barbarian brothers. It's either David or Peter Paul right there. You remember the Barbarians? Yeah, they were sponsors. They had see that sweatshirt he was wearing? They had their own clothing line. Barbarian Wear, I think it was called. It was like these terry cloth material giant sweatshirts with hoods on them and stuff. And yeah, we used to love those big shirts. Look at Sonny. That side chest was nuts on him. Great shot for Sonny. So that was 6th place. Let's see what we got after that. Look how nervous everyone always is, because you don't want your name to be called next. Nobody wants to hear their name next. It's like, please, not me, not me, not me. Everyone wants to be the last name called. That means you won. And guys took their time giving out the awards, as you can see, the placings. So I'm on the edge of my seat. I really forget who took 5th and 4th. Shawn, 5th place, puts his hand up. Sugar Shawn Ray. And who's he getting? That is Gerard Denty in the white shirt. I'm not sure who Gerard was sponsored by at the time. Was it Twin Lab, maybe? Gerard now owns Muscle Meds and MHP. Those are the companies he started toward the end of the 90s, I believe. Gerard was a very good amateur bodybuilder back in the old days. A very consistent heavyweight. Not sure who the other guy was. I think Gerard was with Twin Lab at the time. He was sponsored by a couple major companies as a bodybuilder before he started his own companies. And so we've got 4 left. I think it was Labrada. I think Lee took 4th. You can see size-wise. I mean, look at Lee Labrada next to Haney and Dorian. He's like half their size. But back then, you would never see a guy that size in the top 5 of the Olympia now. It's just we've moved on. The standards have risen over the years. Okay, Lee got 4th. Good for him. But you know what? He never won Olympia, but he's a legend. Obviously, he started his own company, Labrada Nutrition. Did very well. Still doing very well with that. And his son, Hunter Labrada, has carried on the tradition. Hunter's been at the Olympia a few times now. Highest he's done so far has been 4th place. Hunter's looking absolutely enormous right now, just under 300 pounds in very lean condition. So, solid family man, Lee. And I've never met the other Labrada boys. They all have cool names. Like Hunter. What's the other one? I don't know. Anyway, all right. So now I know it was Vince Taylor in 3rd. But look at that. 206 pounds on the left, 250, let's call him 254 in the middle. And I think Dorian was 238 or 239 on the right. Wide range. Nobody wants to hear their name next. I think Lee was pretty confident that he had his 8th title wrapped up. He still looks like he's like sweating bullets, all right? Because Dorian pushed him, man. Vince Taylor in 3rd. So Vince would go on to win, I think, 5 Masters Olympia titles. He never won the Mr. Olympia, but he won 5. Was it 6? I could look it up on my phone, but I'm not going to do it. I'm lazy right now. 5, at least 5. Are those the Blackman brothers up there? I think that's Steve in the blue suit, and I think those are his 2 brothers, Neil, and who's the other one? Yeah, I think those were Steve and his brothers owned the Twin Lab company, and they were, along with Weider, they were the biggest supplement company in the world back then. Cybergenics was making a ton of money too, but Twin Lab was everywhere. Twin Lab, every vitamin store, every health food store you went into, GNCs, Twin Lab stuff was everywhere. So this was it. This was the moment of truth. Dorian almost had him. This was the first attempt Dorian made, and he does have better legs. Look at that. His legs are better. Very comparable in the upper body. Very similar structures. Lee does. Haney did have a little bit tighter waistline, a little bit narrower in the hips than Dorian, which probably gave him the edge over that. Gave him more of a V taper. Dorian not as wide across the shoulders as Lee. I think it's Dorian's posing. I think he was still perfecting his posing. He would get better as time went on, but he was still rough around the edges. This was only his 3rd show, and he hadn't done that many amateur shows either. I think he only did the British Championships twice. I think he won his class once, and then he come back the next time and won the class in the overall. So 2nd place for Dorian. Great debut. Everyone comes out and congratulates. Lee was psyched. Lee with 8 titles. That was amazing. Knowing we didn't think we'd ever see anyone win 8 again. And we saw it many years later. 2005, Ronnie Coleman would win So it would take 16 more years to get another 8-time champion. And I don't think we're ever going to see it again. That Boyer Co there giving out the award. Yeah, I mean, Phil got 7, didn't get 8. The landscape of bodybuilding has changed. I don't think we're ever going to see someone that dominant. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't. Maybe in my lifetime. I'm already 54, so I don't know how much longer I got to wait. But congratulations, Lee, man. 8 Olympia titles, and it says 34. I'm pretty sure he was actually more like 32. I want to say he was 32. Anyway, guys, that has been my review of the 1991 Mr. Olympia, the first one I ever went to in Orlando, Florida, at the Walt Disney World Dolphin Hotel. First time we ever saw Doran Yates on the Olympia stage. Last time we ever saw Lee Haney on the Olympia stage. It was a great show. And there were some guys in there who were excellent, who I know a lot of you younger guys watching this probably aren't very aware of, or maybe only vaguely familiar with. I hope you got a little appreciation of some of the best bodybuilders of that era, the late 80s into the early 90s. So appreciate you guys watching so much. Please, if you like these videos, subscribe, like, share, ring that bell, do all that good stuff. Where's my Instagram one? Follow me on Instagram at Ron Harris Muscle. Appreciate each and every one of you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you